After my wife cheated and tried to ruin my reputation, I discovered her role in a massive fraud ring. Now she's under investigation, and I've taken my life back. I sat in my truck, the engine humming softly, as I stared at the house across the street. It was a nondescript, middle-class home in the suburbs, the kind of place where nothing exciting was supposed to happen. Yet here I was, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Inside that house was my wife, Amanda, and her affair partner, some smug-looking bastard named Chad. I don't know what snapped me into action that night, but something about her tone on the phone earlier had lit a fuse. She'd been full of excuses lately, always running errands, always staying late at work. This time, though, her lie was too obvious. "I'm at Claire's house for book club," she had said, her voice overly casual. Claire, her best friend, had posted on Instagram earlier that day that she was out of town. Amanda had no idea I'd seen it. That's when I decided to follow her, and now here I was, watching, waiting, seething. I picked up my phone and dialed Amanda's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice dripping with fake cheer. "Hey babe, I'm just about to head home. What's up?" "Don't rush," I said calmly. "I'll be home in half an hour." I let the silence stretch just long enough for her to panic. "See you soon." The line went dead. I didn't have to wait long before the front door of Chad's house burst open. Amanda stumbled out, her hair messy, her blouse buttoned wrong, and her face pale as she spoke rapidly into her phone. Chad followed, looking less panicked and more annoyed. They both moved toward their cars, Amanda still clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. I smiled bitterly. "Game over," I muttered, stepping out of the truck. The bat in my hand felt heavier than it should have, but my resolve was steel. It was time to end this charade. I stepped out of the truck, gripping the bat tightly. It wasn't about violence, at least that's what I told myself. It was about power, about taking back control of a life that had been spiraling out of my grasp. Amanda and Chad hadn't seen me yet, too busy scrambling to get into their cars. "Hey!" I barked, my voice cutting through the still night like a blade. Amanda froze mid-step, her phone slipping from her hand and clattering onto the driveway. Chad turned to face me, his confident smirk faltering for a second before he plastered it back on. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" Amanda stammered, her voice higher pitched than I'd ever heard it. She was a terrible liar, but she'd gotten bolder with her deceit over the past few months. "Me?" I said, forcing a laugh. "No, the real question is, what are you doing here? Or do I need to spell it out for you?" Her face turned crimson, but she didn't answer. Instead, she glanced at Chad, who shrugged, like this was some minor inconvenience in his otherwise perfect life. "You've got some nerve showing up here," Chad said, stepping forward. He was taller than me, bulkier, and clearly thought he was intimidating. But there was something about the way he looked at Amanda that made my blood boil. "You think this is your business now?" I asked, taking a step toward him. I lifted the bat just enough to make a point. "Stay out of this, Chad. This is between me and my wife." "Ryan, stop," Amanda hissed. "You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" I snapped, turning to her. "I caught you sneaking out of another man's house, and you're going to stand there and act like this is some misunderstanding?" Her eyes darted everywhere but at me. "It's not what you think." "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't you dare insult my intelligence right now." Chad started to speak again, but I swung the bat down hard, not at him but at the hood of his car. The metal dented with a loud thud, and Amanda screamed. "What the hell, man?" Chad yelled, stepping back, his cocky demeanor gone, replaced by genuine fear. "This is just the beginning," I said coldly. "You think you can walk into my life and wreck my marriage without consequences?" Amanda's tears started then, her face crumpling as she reached for me. "Ryan, please, it's not like that. I can explain." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Explain what? That you've been sneaking around behind my back? That I've been breaking my back to provide for you while you're out here playing house with this loser?" Her tears dried up almost instantly, replaced by something uglier, anger. "You know what? Maybe if you hadn't been so boring, I wouldn't have needed someone else," she spat, her voice venomous. That hit harder than I expected. For a moment, I just stared at her, stunned by how quickly she turned the blame on me. Chad smirked again, clearly emboldened by her words. "You don't deserve her, man," he said. Before I could stop myself, I lunged at him, the bat swinging upward. He dodged just in time, but I managed to clip his arm. He yelped and stumbled backward, clutching it. "Ryan, stop it," Amanda screamed, but I was already done. I wasn't going to waste another second on him. I turned back to her, my voice icy. "Pack your things. When I get home, I don't want to see you there." She gaped at me, her defiance faltering for the first time. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious," I said. "This is over, Amanda. You made your choice." I walked away without waiting for a response, my heart pounding as I climbed into the truck. As I drove off, I could see them in the rearview mirror, Amanda shouting at Chad, who was still cradling his arm. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Amanda wasn't the type to go quietly, and Chad, he had no idea what he'd gotten himself into. The drive home was eerily quiet. My heart should have been pounding, my head spinning with thoughts of what had just happened. Instead, I felt a strange calm settle over me, like the eye of a storm. I wasn't done, not yet. I parked the truck in the driveway and walked inside, the familiar creak of the door reminding me that this was supposed to be my sanctuary. Instead, it felt hollow, like a stage where every moment of the past few months had been a performance. Amanda would be home soon, of that I was certain. She wasn't the type to let me have the last word. I poured a drink and sat on the couch, waiting, the bat leaning against the coffee table like a silent witness. The door slammed open an hour later. Amanda stormed in, her mascara streaked and her hair wild. She looked at me like I was the villain in her story. "You're insane, Ryan," she yelled, slamming her purse onto the counter. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I took a sip of my drink, keeping my voice calm. "Oh, I've got a pretty good idea. You're just mad I caught you." "You're acting like a child," she sneered, swinging bats around, making a scene. "Do you think that's going to fix anything?" I stood, my patience hanging by a thread. "Fix anything? Amanda, you're the one who broke this marriage, and now you're mad that I didn't sit back and take it." She crossed her arms, her face hardening. "You know what? Maybe I did. But can you blame me? You've been so checked out lately, so focused on work. I needed someone who actually cared." Her words hit like daggers, but I wasn't about to let her rewrite the narrative. "Don't you dare twist this around," I said. "I worked so hard to give us a good life, and this is how you repay me? Sneaking around like some cheap soap opera character?" "Cheap?" She shot back, laughing bitterly. "You're calling me cheap? You're the one who can't even hold a conversation anymore without complaining about work, bills, or whatever else is weighing you down." Chad made me feel alive again. Something you haven't done in years. It was like she was trying to gut me, and for a second, she almost succeeded. But then I saw it. The glint of satisfaction in her eyes, the smugness of someone who thought they'd won. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You want to feel alive, Amanda? Good. Because I'm about to make sure you understand what it feels like to lose everything." Her bravado wavered, but only for a second. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I mean," I said slowly, "that I've already called a lawyer. I mean that I'm going to take you for every dime you've got, every shred of dignity you think you still have." She laughed, but it was forced hollow. "You can't do that. Everything we have is shared." I smiled for the first time in hours. "Not everything. You see, I've been documenting things for months. Your late nights, your excuses, the money missing from our accounts. Turns out, judges don't look too kindly on cheaters, especially when there's evidence." Her face paled, the color draining like a curtain had been pulled back on the real Amanda. "You wouldn't." "Oh, I would," I said, "and I will. But don't worry. I'll make sure Chad knows just how much he's getting into. I'm sure he'll love playing sugar daddy once your reputation is in shreds." For the first time, she didn't have a snappy comeback. Instead, she grabbed her purse and turned toward the door. "You're pathetic, Ryan," she said. "You're going to regret this." "I doubt it," I called after her. The door slammed behind her and I stood there, the silence rushing back in. I should have felt triumphant, but instead, a strange emptiness settled in my chest. This wasn't a win, it was survival. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing. Dozens of texts and missed calls flooded my screen. At first, I thought it was Amanda trying to manipulate her way back, but then I saw the messages from mutual friends, the cryptic warnings. "Dude, you need to check your social media now." Confused, I opened my accounts and froze. Amanda had gone nuclear. She'd posted pictures, messages, even fake screenshots of texts between us that painted me as an abusive, controlling husband. She'd spun a narrative that made her the victim, Chad a hero, and me the monster. The comment sections were a battlefield, friends taking sides while strangers lobbed insults. My hands shook as I scrolled through the chaos. She wasn't just trying to hurt me, she was trying to ruin me. I didn't have time to wallow. This wasn't a fight anymore, it was war. The notifications wouldn't stop. Every buzz of my phone felt like a punch to the gut. Each comment and message another reminder that Amanda wasn't just a liar, she was a full-blown saboteur. My hands trembled as I navigated through her public posts, each one more damning than the last. Ryan has been controlling for years. He wouldn't let me have friends or a life of my own, she had written under a carefully curated photo of her looking tearful. Another post read, "It's hard to admit you're in a toxic relationship, but I finally found the strength to walk away. Chad has shown me what love is supposed to feel like." Comments poured in. Friends I thought were loyal sided with her, offering sympathy and praise for her bravery. A few, thankfully, sent me private messages, urging me to respond. But I wasn't about to play her game, not yet. Instead, I went to the one person I knew I could count on, Jake, my best friend since college. He answered my call on the second ring, his voice groggy but concerned. "Ryan, what's going on? I saw Amanda's posts. What the hell is happening?" "Meet me at the diner in 20 minutes, I said. "I need your help." When I got to the diner, Jake was already there, 2 cups of coffee steaming on the table. He looked up, his brows knitted in worry. "Dude, you look like hell." "Thanks," I muttered, sliding into the booth. "Listen, I need to figure out how to stop Amanda. She's gone nuclear, and if I don't fight back, she's going to ruin me." Jake leaned back, scratching his beard. "She's smart, always has been. But this is next-level evil." I nodded. "I need proof, something solid to show she's lying. She's already poisoned half our friends against me." Jake pulled out his phone. "Let me dig around. If she's bold enough to post that garbage publicly, there's no telling what else she's left lying around." As Jake searched, I replayed the events of the past few months in my head, trying to piece together any clues I might have missed. Then something clicked. The bank statements, the missing money. At the time, I thought it was careless spending. Now, I wasn't so sure. "Check this out," Jake said, breaking my train of thought. He turned his phone toward me, showing a screenshot of Chad's public Instagram. One post in particular caught my eye. A picture of Amanda and Chad at a high-end restaurant from 2 weeks ago, with the caption, "When love finds you, the world disappears." It was damning, but not enough to flip the script. "Keep digging," I said. "I'll be right back." At home, I tore through the filing cabinet where we kept our shared financial documents. Sure enough, the missing funds weren't random withdrawals. They were payments to an unknown account. The transaction IDs all pointed to one consistent destination. I didn't recognize the account holder's name, but I knew someone who could help. By the time I returned to the diner, Jake had more news. "You're not going to believe this," he said, sliding his phone across the table. "Chad isn't just some random guy. He's a grifter. There are records of him running scams with women in 3 different states." My stomach twisted. "So what? Amanda's just another mark?" "Not exactly," Jake said. "She's in on it. Look at this." He pulled up a Reddit thread, complete with screenshots from other victims of Chad and Amanda's schemes. Fake romantic relationships, public sympathy campaigns, even fraudulent charity fundraisers. My blood boiled as I scrolled through the evidence. Amanda wasn't just cheating, she was conning me, using our marriage as a front to bankroll her criminal lifestyle. Jake smirked grimly. "You wanted proof? This is it." The next move had to be calculated. I wasn't just dealing with an unfaithful wife. I was dealing with a criminal mastermind. Amanda thought she could destroy me publicly and walk away unscathed, but now I had the ammunition to fight back. That night, I went through every document, every text message, every email. I compiled a mountain of evidence, enough to not only clear my name but to ensure Amanda and Chad would face the consequences of their actions. But it wasn't enough to confront her privately. No, I needed to flip the narrative, and fast. The next day, I posted my own story online, complete with screenshots of the financial discrepancies, Amanda's fraudulent activity, and links to the Reddit thread exposing Chad's scams. I didn't attack Amanda directly. I let the facts speak for themselves. Within hours, my post gained traction. The comment section flooded with support and outrage toward her and Chad. Amanda's smear campaign unraveled before her eyes. Mutual friends who had sided with her began reaching out to apologize. People started digging deeper, uncovering even more evidence of Amanda's lies and schemes. Chad's name became synonymous with fraud, and Amanda's reputation crumbled alongside his. Amanda showed up at the house that evening, her face a mask of fury. "How dare you air our dirty laundry like that? You're pathetic." I laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Dirty laundry, Amanda? You've been laundering money. You and Chad scammed me, scammed others, and now you're mad that I exposed the truth? You don't understand," she snapped, her voice desperate. "I did this for us. I needed a way out, and Chad—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't even try to justify this. You destroyed everything for greed. I hope it was worth it." Her defiance crumbled, replaced by a flicker of fear. For the first time, I saw the real Amanda. Someone who thought she could manipulate her way out of anything but was finally out of moves. "This isn't over," she said weakly, as she turned to leave. "No," I said. "It's just beginning for you." As she walked away, I felt no satisfaction, just clarity. Amanda and Chad had underestimated me, but I wasn't playing by their rules anymore. I had taken my life back, piece by piece, and now it was time for them to face the consequences. Amanda was desperate, and desperate people made mistakes. I didn't expect her to give up so easily, not with her ego on the line. I knew she'd try something bold, something reckless. So, I decided to set a trap. I spent the next day quietly preparing, working with my lawyer and Jake to ensure every angle was covered. The evidence we'd uncovered wasn't just enough to clear my name. It was enough to bring Amanda and Chad's entire operation crumbling down, but I wasn't going to wait for the courts to handle it. This needed a personal touch. That night, Amanda called. I wasn't surprised. The venom in her voice was palpable, even through the phone. "We need to talk," she demanded. "About what? You ruining my life, or me exposing yours?" I said, keeping my tone casual. "Ryan, don't play games. This has gotten out of hand. We can fix this, but you need to meet me. Alone." I smirked at the predictability of it all. "Fine. Where?" She hesitated, then said, "Chad's place, half an hour." "Sure," I said, hanging up. But I wasn't going in blind. Jake insisted on coming along, waiting in the car down the street in case things went south. "You sure about this?" he asked as I grabbed the recorder from my glove box. "Positive," I said. "She wants to manipulate me, but I'm done playing defense." I pulled up to Chad's house, the same place where everything had started. The lights were dimmed, and Amanda stood on the porch, her arms crossed. She looked rattled, like someone who had just been served a dose of their own medicine. "Ryan," she began as I approached, "we can fix this. You don't have to ruin everything." I stopped a few feet away, keeping my expression neutral. "You already ruined everything, Amanda. What do you want?" She looked around nervously, as if expecting an audience. "You don't understand," she said, lowering her voice. "Chad's dangerous. If you keep pushing, he'll come after you, after both of us." "Both of us?" I echoed, pretending to be surprised. "Since when are you the victim?" "I made mistakes," she said, her voice trembling. "But I didn't know what I was getting into with him. He promised me everything, freedom, excitement, but it was all lies. Now I'm trapped, Ryan. He's blackmailing me." I raised an eyebrow. "Blackmailing you with what?" She hesitated, her face twisting with indecision. "Photos, messages, things he could use to ruin me even more than you already have. Please, Ryan, if you have any shred of compassion left, help me. It was a good performance, convincing even, but I wasn't buying it." Before I could respond, the door opened, and Chad stepped out. He wasn't smirking this time. His face was dark, his eyes cold. He carried himself like someone who thought he was untouchable. "You should have stayed out of this," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Nice to see you too, Chad," I said. "How's the arm?" His jaw tightened, and I saw the faintest twitch of anger. "You think you're smart, don't you?" he said. "Posting all that crap online. But you've made things worse for yourself." Amanda stepped between us, her hands up. "Stop it, both of you. This isn't helping." "Helping?" I said, laughing bitterly. "Amanda, you're still trying to play both sides. It's pathetic." Chad took a step closer. "Listen, pal, you're going to take that post down, and you're going to walk away from this. Otherwise, you won't like what happens next." It was exactly what I needed him to say. "Oh, I think I'll take my chances," I said, reaching into my pocket. "Because the way I see it, you're the one who's out of options." His eyes narrowed as I pulled out my phone. I pressed a button, and the voice recorder app played back every word he'd just said. Amanda's face went pale. Chad, however, barely flinched. "So what? You think that little toy is going to scare me?" I smiled, keeping my gaze steady. "No, but it'll do wonders for the police. You know, the ones I already sent the financial evidence to? The same ones who are very interested in your little hustles." For the first time, Chad looked uncertain. "You're bluffing." "Try me," I said. "Oh, and while you're at it, maybe explain how Amanda's name is on those fake charity accounts you've been funneling money through. I'm sure the cops would love to hear her side of things." Amanda spun toward him, her face a mask of panic. "What is he talking about?" "Shut up," Chad snapped, his cool facade cracking. "He's just trying to divide us." But Amanda wasn't buying it. "You told me this was foolproof, that there was no way it could be traced back to me." I stepped back, letting them implode. Watching Amanda's betrayal turn inward was almost poetic. "You idiot," Chad growled, advancing on her. "You couldn't even keep your mouth shut long enough to—" He didn't get to finish. Jake appeared out of nowhere, tackling Chad to the ground. I hadn't seen him leave the car, but his timing was perfect. "Thought I'd crash the party," Jake said, pinning Chad down. Amanda shrieked, backing away, but I grabbed her arm. "We're done, Amanda," I said. "You've lost, and when the cops show up, you'll have plenty of time to think about how boring I was compared to this mess." By the time the police arrived, Chad was subdued, and Amanda was hysterical. The evidence was airtight. Chad was arrested on the spot, and Amanda, though not cuffed, was informed she'd be under investigation. I stood by the curb, watching as the chaos unfolded. Jake clapped me on the shoulder. "Hell of a way to end a marriage." I nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief. "Yeah, but it's over now." Or so I thought. The following morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. Chad was in police custody, Amanda was under investigation, and my name was slowly being cleared. But the sense of finality I craved still eluded me. There was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind, like I'd missed something critical. By noon, the phone calls started. Friends and acquaintances who had been radio silent during Amanda's smear campaign were now calling to apologize, offering support, and trying to understand how things had escalated so quickly. But one call stood out, a number I didn't recognize. "Ryan," the voice on the other end said when I picked up. "I need to speak with you. It's important." "Who is this?" "My name's Lisa. I'm Chad's ex. I know you don't know me, but I saw everything online. I think you need to know the truth." We met at a coffee shop an hour later. Lisa was nervous, her hands trembling as she stirred her drink. She was younger than I expected, probably in her mid-20s, with a weariness in her eyes that made her seem older. "Chad and I were together for 2 years, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I knew him, but he lied about everything. His job, his past, even his name. When I found out what he was really doing, I tried to leave, but—" She trailed off, her eyes darting toward the door as if expecting him to walk in. "But what?" I pressed. "He threatened me," she said, her voice breaking. "Said he'd ruin me, just like he's done to so many others. He made me feel trapped." I clenched my fists under the table. "Why are you telling me this now?" She hesitated, then slid a USB drive across the table. "Because you're not the only one he's hurt. That drive has everything. Names, accounts, even messages between him and Amanda. She's deeper in this than you realize." At home, I plugged the drive into my computer and opened the files. Lisa wasn't exaggerating. The drive contained a treasure trove of incriminating evidence, bank transfers, forged documents, even recordings of Chad coaching Amanda on how to manipulate me. But one file stood out, labeled Plan B. I clicked it, my stomach twisting as I read the contents. It was a detailed outline of their fallback plan if they were caught. Amanda would frame me for domestic abuse, claim financial control, and use public sympathy to walk away unscathed. Chad's role was to disappear and resurface under a new identity. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was premeditated destruction. My hands shook as I closed the file. Every moment of doubt I'd felt over the past few months, every time I'd questioned whether I was overreacting, suddenly crystallized into rage. Amanda and Chad weren't just liars, they were predators. That evening, Amanda showed up at the house. I didn't bother asking how she got in. She still had a key, though that was about to change. She walked into the living room, her face a carefully constructed mask of remorse. "Ryan," she began softly, "I came to apologize." I stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. "For what? Cheating on me, lying, or trying to destroy my life?" She winced, her eyes glistening with crocodile tears. "For all of it. I made mistakes, but I was confused. Chad manipulated me. He made me believe things about you that weren't true." I almost laughed. Her performance was flawless, but I wasn't the audience she thought I was. "Cut the act, Amanda. I know everything." Her facade cracked for a split second, but she recovered quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about." I walked over to the coffee table and picked up the USB drive, tossing it onto the couch between us. "Lisa says hi." Amanda's face drained of color. "Lisa?" "Yeah, your partner in crime's ex-girlfriend. Turns out she doesn't like being used any more than I do." Amanda stared at the drive like it was a live grenade. "Ryan, you have to understand." "What I understand," I interrupted, my voice rising, "is that you plan to ruin me, not just my reputation, but my entire life. And for what? Money? Excitement? Was it worth it, Amanda?" She took a step back, her hands trembling. "You don't know what he's capable of. He would have come after me if I didn't—" "Stop blaming Chad," I snapped. "You weren't some innocent victim. You chose this. You chose to betray me, to lie, to destroy everything we built, and now you're going to face the consequences." Her fear morphed into defiance. "You think you're so righteous, don't you? Like you're better than me. Well, guess what, Ryan? You're nothing without me. You never were." I stepped closer, my voice low and steady. "I may be nothing to you, Amanda, but at least I'm not a criminal. At least I don't destroy the people I claim to love." For the first time, she had nothing to say. The cops arrived 15 minutes later, responding to the tip I'd called in earlier. Amanda protested, screamed, and begged, but it was over. As they led her out, she turned to me, her face a mask of fury and desperation. "This isn't over, Ryan," she shouted. "You'll regret this." I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. She was right. It wasn't over. There were still legal battles ahead, still pieces of my life to rebuild. But for the first time in months, I felt free. That night I sat in the quiet of my home, the weight of the past few weeks finally lifting. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain: I'd survived, and that, for now, was enough. For the first time in weeks, I woke up to silence. No texts, no calls, no chaos. Amanda and Chad were out of my life, or so I thought. I spent the morning tying up loose ends, making sure the evidence I'd gathered was securely handed over to my lawyer and the authorities. The storm seemed to be over. By mid-afternoon, Jake called. "How's freedom treating you?" he asked. "Quiet," I said. "Too quiet, maybe, but I'll take it." Jake chuckled. "Enjoy it while it lasts. You deserve some peace after all that." But peace has a way of being temporary, and my phone buzzed just as I hung up. This time, it was a blocked number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You think this is over?" Amanda's voice hissed through the line. My heart sank. "Amanda, you're not supposed to be contacting me." "Oh, don't worry, Ryan. This isn't about reconciliation. This is about letting you know that I'm not done." "You're delusional," I said, my voice steady but my stomach nodding. "You're going to jail, you and Chad both." Amanda laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You think Chad's the end of the line? You think this is just about us? You'll see soon enough." The line went dead. For the rest of the day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I called Jake and filled him in. "She's bluffing," he said. "What can she possibly do now?" Knowing Amanda, something reckless. Jake paused, then said, "Let's stay ahead of her. I'll dig around, see if there's anything else she might be hiding. You focus on keeping your head straight." That night, I sat in my living room, the quiet now feeling oppressive. I double-checked the locks, paranoid that Amanda's vague threat wasn't just an empty promise. I was about to head to bed when my phone buzzed again. This time, a text from another unknown number. "You thought Amanda was bad? You don't even know the half of it." Attached was a photo of me, taken just hours earlier, sitting in the coffee shop with Lisa. My blood ran cold. Someone had been watching. The next day, Jake called with news. "Ryan, you're not going to believe this," he said. "Amanda wasn't bluffing. Chad wasn't just running a scam with her. He's tied to something much bigger." "What are you talking about?" "I did some digging," Jake said. "Chad has connections to a network of fraudsters, people who specialize in blackmail and identity theft. Amanda was just one piece of it, and it looks like they've already started targeting you." I sat down hard, the weight of his words hitting me like a punch to the gut. "How? Why?" "Because you're a loose end," Jake said grimly. "Amanda might be out of the picture, but Chad's associates don't like leaving loose ends." That evening, I received another message, this time an email. The subject line read, "You've been warned." The body of the email was simple, a list of my personal information, including my address, work history, and even my social security number. At the bottom, a single sentence, "Leave it alone or we ruin you." The fear turned to anger as I stared at the screen. They thought they could scare me into silence. They didn't realize I was past the point of fear. I called Jake again. "We need to hit back," I said. "How?" he asked. "These people are professionals. You're out of your depth." "Maybe," I said, "but they've made a mistake. They've underestimated what I'm willing to do." Jake sighed. "All right, what's the plan?" The first step was contacting Lisa. She was hesitant at first, but once I explained what was happening, she agreed to meet me. "If Chad's people are after you, they'll come after me too," she said. "We need to be smart about this." Together, we went through the files she'd given me. Buried deep in the folder was an encrypted document labeled Ops. With some help from Jake's tech-savvy cousin, we cracked it open. What we found was a detailed list of Chad's associates, their operations, and their targets. It was a goldmine and a ticking time bomb. If Chad's network found out we had it, they'd come for us with everything they had. The next morning, I took the drive to the police. They were already building a case against Amanda and Chad, but this new evidence expanded their scope. The lead detective assured me they'd act quickly, but his tone didn't inspire much confidence. When I left the station, I noticed a black SUV idling across the street. As I walked to my car, the engine revved, and the vehicle pulled out, following me at a distance. My pulse quickened as I took a series of random turns, confirming my suspicion. They were tailing me. I called Jake. "I'm being followed," I said. "Get to a public place," he said. "Don't go home." I ended up at a crowded diner, the SUV still parked across the street. I stayed there for hours, pretending to read a menu while keeping an eye on the car. Eventually it drove off, but the sense of danger lingered. By the time I got home, it was nearly midnight. The house was dark, and everything seemed normal, until I stepped inside. The living room was trashed, papers scattered, furniture overturned, and my laptop gone. Someone had been here, and they weren't subtle about it. I called the police, but as I waited for them to arrive, a single thought kept repeating in my head, Amanda's words. This isn't over. The break-in wasn't random, it was a message. They weren't just watching me, they wanted me to know I was vulnerable. But they made one mistake, they underestimated how far I was willing to go. I wasn't just fighting for my name or my pride anymore, I was fighting for my life. The next morning, I met Jake in an abandoned parking lot, our breath visible in the cold dawn air. He handed me a burner phone and a small, nondescript device. "What's this?" I asked. "A tracker," Jake said. "If Chad's people are serious, we need to stay ahead of them. I planted one on the SUV that followed you yesterday. Turns out, they've been holed up at a warehouse on the edge of town." My heart raced. "And you didn't tell me sooner?" "I wanted to be sure," Jake said. "This isn't just Chad and his goons. The warehouse is a hub. It's bigger than we thought." I nodded, gripping the device. "Then it's time to end this." That evening, I drove to the warehouse, parking a safe distance away. Jake stayed in the car, ready to call for backup if things went south. I crept toward the building, my footsteps silent on the gravel. Through a cracked window, I saw them. Chad, Amanda, and two other men huddled around a table covered in documents, cash, and electronics. Amanda looked different, tired, frantic. She was gesturing wildly, her voice rising as she argued with Chad. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. The tension was palpable. I pulled out my phone and started recording through the window. The evidence was damning. They were orchestrating their next scam, plotting their next move. But then something caught my eye, a folder on the table labeled Ryan Files. My stomach twisted. They weren't just targeting me, they were dissecting my entire life, looking for ways to destroy me. I clenched my fists, the rage threatening to boil over. I circled the warehouse, finding a side door propped open. My heart pounded as I slipped inside, the faint hum of conversation guiding me closer to the table. I ducked behind a stack of crates, my phone still recording. Then I heard Chad's voice. "We need to take him out of the equation," he said coldly. "As long as Ryan's breathing, we're at risk." Amanda hesitated. "I didn't sign up for this. You said we'd ruin him, not... "Grow a spine, Amanda," Chad snapped. "You're in this as deep as I am." Her silence was damning, and I knew in that moment that whatever humanity Amanda had left was gone. I stepped out of the shadows, my voice cutting through the tension. "Looking for me?" The room froze. Chad spun around, his face twisting into a snarl. Amanda's eyes widened, and the two men at the table reached for their guns. "Aha," I said, holding up my phone. "You don't want to do that. This is live streaming straight to the cloud. If anything happens to me, the world sees everything." Chad laughed, low and dangerous. "You think that's going to stop us? We're already buried in evidence. One more body won't matter." I smirked. "You're right. Evidence doesn't matter when you're dead." Before they could react, Jake burst through the door, a bat in one hand and a flashlight in the other. He swung the bat at one of Chad's men, knocking him out cold. The second man lunged, but Jake was faster, slamming the flashlight into his jaw. Chad grabbed Amanda, pulling her in front of him like a shield. "You're out of your depth, Ryan," he shouted. "You don't have what it takes to stop me." I stepped closer, my voice steady. "You're wrong. I've had enough of you ruining lives. My life." Amanda whimpered, her facade cracking as Chad tightened his grip. "Let me go, Chad," she said. "This isn't worth it." "Oh, now you're scared?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Should have thought about that before you teamed up with him." Chad snarled and shoved Amanda aside, reaching for a gun on the table. But I was faster. I grabbed the tracker Jake had given me and hurled it at Chad's face. He stumbled back, giving me just enough time to grab the gun first. "Sit down," I said, aiming the weapon at him. He froze, his hands raised, his confidence shattered. Amanda sobbed in the corner, her defiance reduced to nothing. "You think this is over?" Chad sneered, his voice shaking. "Even if you take me down, there are others. This doesn't end with me." "Maybe not," I said. "But it ends with you for me." The police arrived minutes later, Jake having called them the moment he saw things escalate. Chad and his men were arrested, their operation dismantled in one swift blow. Amanda was taken into custody as well, her pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears. Weeks later, I sat in court as the judge handed down their sentences. Chad received the harshest punishment, his years of scams finally catching up with him. Amanda got less time, but the weight of her betrayal was enough to ensure she'd never escape the shadow of her actions. As I left the courthouse, Jake clapped me on the shoulder. "You did it, man. It's over." "Yeah," I said, the weight finally lifting. "It's over." But as I drove home, I couldn't shake Chad's final words. "This doesn't end with me." The past had been buried, but it left scars I'd carry forever. And while I'd won this battle, I knew the war for peace and trust in my life would continue. For now, though, I was free, and that was enough.